So I did it. I did it. I found the hole that goes between things that I fit in. That 666 is the blood. I got to get blood tested. There's a DNA test, all right? And that really, I don't know that that should tell the story because, okay, it would be really nice if I had that dragon blood. That would be nice. But rather than being a complete dreamer, the reason I say that on my website is because 666 is Robert Edward Booth. You say, well, that's everybody says that's crazy. No. I found a loophole that's going to get me through it. And it's where, see, William Booth is the founder of Salvation Army, the general of that operation for the Lord. So I couldn't find his information. I was looking and I found that he had no brother. But I had seen that on George's, my family member, out of my files where I did an ancestry back check, George Booth Jr. was on my list. So, okay, George Booth had a brother named William on my list. I'm thinking back through a process, okay? So I had proclaimed that William Booth was my family. He's not. Not that degree. The next degree up was George Sr. George Sr. had 3 wives. So that's why William Booth did not have a brother, and he's still my family. That's only half the news that I found. The incident that I had thought wrong when I saw the listing that William Booth didn't have any brothers, that's what got me on the warpath. So I went back through it. And George Booth had a daughter named Mary Booth. And Mary Booth was, first, she was a lady, which is already, I think, royalty. But she became a countess. She was known as Countess Grey, I think. She married, which Grey it was, I'm a little short. It was a Grey in any case. Lord Grey. How does that work? Lord Grey. She married. And they had a child, and that one child was supposed to inherit Mary Grey's estate. I mean, everything, the countess part and all. Well, he didn't. It was dead and right there because of a marital law that he was conceived out of wedlock. Well, that ended it right there. That, I'm going to say, has to do with my existence, and I've not yet traced that. I'm trying to be frank with you. Matter of fact, the Franks are in my bloodlines, and the Franks are a lot of that dragon blood. So the Grey issue goes further than that. She was the great granddaughter of another Grey. I didn't recall whether it was a baron or whether it was an earl or what. So, okay, she was a Grey. Then I went back and looked up Castle Greystoke. Well, I was looking up the Greys or something. I ended up back at the Greystoke, and I says, I wrote them, of course. Please inform me of who to talk to about this matter type conversations. So, Lord Greystoke eventually is into the Grey family. Okay? Lord Greystoke is eventually into the solid Grey name, which I told you that she is Grey also. So I got that tied as far back to the Castle Greystoke and an actual king. Other than that, royal lines, you're talking about Lady Booth and Lord Grey had a child. Well, okay, that's the last Booth that George Booth Sr. had a daughter, and that daughter he named Mary Booth. So that senior had the sons, and William Booth is one of those. I haven't finished there either. But what is your odds in that? William Booth also, I might add, was the Grey uh, George Booth's daddy's name was William Booth. Now, what's the odds of William Booth came out on 2 different occasions? It was a different wife. He had William Booth again over there. So you go ahead and figure that part. I haven't tied that. I should. I got it on my notes. But the Gray name ties me to royalty. And the Booth name, George Booth. George Booth was of the Booth Rebellion. George Booth led the Booth Rebellion and became peership. Peership's also something like royalty. I don't know how. Maybe equity with royalty, something like that. I haven't looked the depth of that up. So George Booth did that. And there was a Robert Booth who was a knight, Knight. And so I have knights, which is as good as right up besides royalty. I have knights, and I have the king, if you can get it all the way back to Gray, which ties to, and I told you, Gray was the great-grandfather of Mary Booth. Mary Booth married a Gray also, so that double ties Gray. You see what I'm saying? That was nothing back then for them to do that. Royalty, the dragon blood tries to breed with other dragon blood. They find that bloodlines. But this is way high in that area, so I have written to the houses there. I wrote to, a couple societies for William Booth. And then I wrote also to the Castle Greystoke that I tied to the Greys that way. After that, you got Delamere and places like that. It's all in the information on the website. Lord Delamere and something of what war something. Not might be Warsaw, but I don't think it was Warsaw. It was some war name. Warrington? Yeah, Warrington. Like a sheriff or something like that. So there's the royalty of the Countess. And the Countess goes back to where she lost that rights to that child. So if I can get that law pie as 666, Robert Edward Booth, born on September 23rd, which is also the day of prophecy that Venus had a strand come to Earth, was impregnated. So I put all that together. If I can walk into it like that as the Lady Booth's offspring and show where she had married the Gray, and the Gray is in my bloodlines also. So you have George Booth that did my family on the Booth end of it too. Somehow wrapped around that his daughter was on the Gray side, married in. See, her name changed to Gray. That doesn't change the George Booth in my family. Now, George Booth, I don't know if he goes to a Gray. Well, he does. He does. He has to, because that's how many lines. Great-grandfather, see it? Great-grandfather to Mary Booth was a Gray. Hello? You know how you have granddaddy such and such and granddaddy such and such? Her other granddaddy. So George Booth was not necessarily, since they have 2 great-granddaddies, was not necessarily tied to the same. See that how the tie runs back together? She ends up marrying the Gray and stays in my blood. And then also the Booth that did the war, the Booth Rebellion, became peership. That gives you peership. That's just about like a countess or something. So that's the person sharing with you on threeoaks1.com. I think you should go there because I even got more about being a Koya and how I contacted the Sioux tribes. I'm trying to get my ceremonies for that because I've been led to try to help them people, because what happened biblically, how the 50 million of them got killed, it's posted on the website. I'm really disgusted because I looked into it and I looked out whose hands has been in what and everything, and I've got that. I can lay it all down in writing, and that's the key. If I can take these bloodlines and if I can take that stuff that I've got documents, no, I've saved it triplicate and stuff. I've got it all documented. I can take you through it, and I've got them couple places that I mentioned. But, William Booth was tied in because George had a dad named William. So what's the odds of him having 3 wives, having 2 Williams as sons in different places? So if I do that, then I become also the general of the Salvation Army's offspring as well. So what are you going to do? Say that 666 is the devil? You're gaming for that because you need to look into all that. This occult guy, DeVere, that I headed off my site and quoted, Elven. Christ was elven blood, okay? Elvens are the ones that care for the environment. The elven are tied to the ecology and stuff. And the Elvins is who, some reason, on an occult level, that the people at the Vatican want to kill. And that's why I get to also get through this whole situation, because that's obvious and evident enough with the burnings they did and the book burnings and the people burnings and all. You gotta know. And then that was a war too going on when they made the Bible. So we're going past that to elven blood in Christ. And that right there is key. You take that key and you put it with that other key, and we're in. Peace.